Hi, this is James here with the Oracle Outlook for the week starting December the 31st, 2018. Well, this is it. I'm in this transitional phase that I talked about in last week's video reading because I'm shooting this video towards the end of 2018, and it's going to be the first official video of 2019. So I'm in that transitional phase. It's very exciting in a way. And since I'm talking about 2018, before I go any further, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who supported me, who supported my work, and who supported the channel throughout 2018. As I always say, I can't do what I do on this side of the camera without any of you on the other side, so I do appreciate all the views. The views are important because you're giving me your time, the gift of your time. That's huge. So thank you. And I was thinking about this earlier in relation to the gift of your time. There are so many things that kind of vie for our attention in this busy world. And even here on this platform with YouTube, there are so many things that you could be watching. And for those of you who take the time each and every week to watch the videos that I upload to this channel, it means so much to me. So thank you. That is huge. And I can't ever thank you enough for the gift of your time, because you could be choosing to do other things with your time. So I do appreciate that. As well as the views, I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the comments. I really enjoy dialoguing with each of you. And I also appreciate those of you who continually give me inspiration and suggestions for content for the channel. It helps me to know what you all are interested in and what you all would like to see. So for those of you who contributed for the content, especially the series that I did throughout this year, thank you so much. And for those of you who have already gotten the ball rolling for things you'd like to see in 2019, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. So please keep those suggestions coming. And so, since I'm still talking about 2018, what I did was I took a look over the past year to see how I started the Oracle Outlook for 2018, and I wanted to end it on a similar note. So what I did was I was working with playing cards at the beginning of the year because I had made a personal commitment to myself for my own study and practice to work with playing cards more. And for those of you who may not be aware, I share the story quite often, but there may be somebody who's new. So I actually got into card reading because I had a dream of reading playing cards, and this was 20 years ago. So 2018 marked the 20th year anniversary of that dream. So to honor the dream, I decided that I was going to work with playing cards more. And a lot of you got on board with me because it showed up in my work, and you all asked me great questions, and it actually inspired a series that is still going on about my personal study and practice of cartomancy with playing cards. So I have been not able to keep the series going in terms of frequency as much as I'd like, but it's still ongoing. And so I wanted to end this year with a similar system. So the system that I'm going to be working with for this week's reading is the Gypsy Witch Fortune-Telling Oracle Cards, and that's because they have playing card inserts. The deck is by Lynn Boyle, and I will be leaving a link in the description box below so you can learn more about the deck, or if you're interested enough and you want to acquire it, you will find all the purchasing information at her Etsy shop. So I have the deck on hand. I'm going to jump into the reading now. And I'm going to take a few moments, because even though the year is changing, the intention is not. So I'm focusing on the intention, which is I'm asking the cards for information and insight that will be beneficial and helpful to us throughout this upcoming week. Feeling one more time will be good. And there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards. Now I'm going to fan them out. And now I'm looking for 5 cards in the fan to get my attention, because when I work with Cartomancy systems and playing cards. I usually do a line of 5. Here we have card 4, and this will be card 5. Alright, so I have the card selected, so now I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up and we'll put that to one side. Alright, so now I'm going to line up the cards. And I'm feeling like I want to start with the card on the far left and just read them from left to right. So let's go ahead and do that. Starting out the line, we have key and the 4 of clubs, because when I work with this deck, I read the symbol and the playing card insert. Okay, so key, like I said, is opening the line up. So key is a card that can represent answers and solutions. So there may be a situation in which we're seeking to discover. Key is about discovery. Some answer and solution to a problem or a challenge, right? It could also be saying too, like if I go with the idea that we are in this transitional phase and we're moving from 2018 into 2019, key can represent things that are important, right? So this could be just acknowledging an important period of time that we're ushering into, one in which we are going to be either discovering things are going to be revealed, because key is a card of discovery and revelation for me. And it could also be saying that things are going to be unlocked, because keys can unlock things. So this may be a time where we're going to unlock something. Something's going to be unlocked for us. Something important or something significant, right? So those are my associations for key. I'm asking what else? Oh, for some people, this could be an important time in which we get to the truth of something, because the key is all about the truth, right? So it could just be a matter of either a truth about a situation, a truth about an experience, or that you're going to discover something that becomes a personal truth for you. So I will say that about key. Now, 4 of clubs. Clubs is the suit that can represent work or business. So for some people, this could be around work. You may be discovering or having it revealed to you in some way about what your work is, right? And it could just be like, I talked about this idea last week about like discovering what your work is, like why you are here, what it is that you are here to be doing. So if you remember that last week, this could be a carryover from that particular message, and that you discover what it is that you are supposed to be here doing in terms of work. And so now remember, I talked about that in the spiritual sense, like your spiritual path and the work on that path, or that we're actually talking about your working life, career life, and you discover what it is, you know, and you discover that what you feel called to do in terms of your work. So I'm feeling that may be the case for some people. For other people, this is the time, as we're moving from 2018 into 2019, this is the time about laying a foundation. The 4 is a number for me of foundation, and so it could just be that we are wanting to create a greater sense of security and stability in our lives, and that may be the thing that we are seeking answers and solutions around, is how can we achieve a greater sense of stability and security. What is the work? Now, if we go with the idea that the clubs represent something that we need to work on, not necessarily working life, but something that we need to put some work or some effort into. We may be putting work or effort into gaining the answers to the question that we have around creating stability and security in our lives, right? So there is that. For another person or other people, the 4 of clubs is a card that can represent a car. So here we have that symbolism that I talked about last week with the Chariot and the Wheel of Fortune as a combination. Remember, I did say for some people it could literally represent a new set of wheels. Well, the 4 of clubs is the same thing. And then this could be like keys to a new car, right? And if it's not, like I said last week, a brand spanking new car, then it would be a car that's new to you. But here with these combinations, it could literally mean a set of car keys, right? So there's that. If it's not the literal sense, just like I said last week, this could just be a time of progress. Clubs as a suit for me can represent progress being made. And so with the idea of a car symbolically, you can talk about progress and movement. which I think I talked about last week. So it could just be, again, this idea about movement. It could be, too, if you're a reflective type of person, because I personally get reflective at this time of the year. I start asking myself, what did I learn through the experiences that I had? How did those experiences help me progress? How did they help me move forward? How did they help me advance? Because the Four of Clubs in that regard is known as the teacher card, right? So it could just be, again, we're asking through our own life experiences what they were meant to teach us. And did we learn the lesson, right? So for some people, if you're in that space, if you're feeling reflective, this is a great time to do a review and take a look at what it is that you learned, because it's really not about the experience, it's about the lesson gained from the experience that you will be able to take with you going forward, right? So some people may get an aha moment about the lesson of a particular experience, going back to the key being the truth. You may learn what the truth of that experience was for you, right? So there is that. I'm asking, what else do I want to say about the Four of Clubs? Yes, this is it. So the Four of Clubs can also represent a telephone symbolically. So this could just be a week where communication is going to be very important. When I see it at the beginning of a line, it usually represents, like for me personally, I would be on the giving end of a conversation, meaning I would be the one to pick up a phone and call someone, right? So it could just be a matter of you picking up the phone or some other means of communication and getting in touch with people, right? So I'm seeing that with the Four of Clubs. Again, this is about movement, progress. It could literally be a key, or a car, I should say, and then key would be car key. So movement, a car. It could also be about progress being made, teaching, you know, in terms of teaching and learning. And it could also be, too, since I'm talking about work, so somebody may be wanting to do work or as a teacher or become a teacher, right? And so if that's the case, if that resonates with you, how can you start laying the foundation for that? Or if you've reached a certain stage with that, how can you take that to the next level? So I'm seeing that specifically around somebody who wants to be a teacher, right? And then the other thing with the Four of Clubs is about communication. So that is what I'm seeing with the first card. So now let's take a look at the next card and see where the story goes from here. Okay, so here we have the crossroads and the Ace of Clubs. So I call it crossroads, but here it's printed as the roads. It's the same thing. So the crossroads can come up when we're at an intersection, so to speak, in life. So we're at a fork in the road. So this is symbolic. We're at a fork in the road, and we're needing to make a decision about where do we go from here, right? And the depiction on the card has a number of avenues or roads. So it could just be saying, too, like, for some of us, we are questioning the path that we're on, and we're getting to a certain point, and we're needing to make a choice about where do we go from here. And there could be a number of roads or paths or avenues that you could take, and you have to make a choice as to which way do you want to go, right? And if you're needing to have that decision being made, if you're in that decision-making process, one of the ways you could answer that would be to start by suggesting to yourself, what is it that you want? Where do you see yourself going? What is it that you want to achieve? Remember, in last week's reading, I talked about this idea with the Chariot about, you know, goals and goal setting. So it could be just another way for me to say what I said last week, this week. Where do you want to go? What goals do you want to achieve? Because that will give you an idea about the road that you need to travel down in order to achieve that goal, right? So it's just a matter of you asking yourself, what do I want? What would I like to achieve? What would I like to see happen in my life? And that may give you some idea about which road you want to travel down. So there is that to consider. Now, with the Ace of Clubs, this has been an ongoing message, and I'm going to say it again. The Ace of Clubs can come up when we're at a beginning stage in life. So this could be potentially, for some, about work and business. So again, something having to do with a change in work, or securing work, or getting a new job, or something of that nature. That is fitting into this. It could just be also, too, that I talked about this idea about progress being made. this card would literally be the beginning stages of progress. You're actually literally seeing progress being made, right? The potential is there for progress to be made. So I'm seeing that with the Ace of Clubs. The other thing I will say is that, and this is a personal aside, sometimes this card can be about legal documents and legal paperwork. So for some people, it could just be a matter of needing to get some answers or solutions, or seeing some progress made regarding a legal situation. And if that's the case, then it just may be a matter of paperwork being drawn up or drafted or filed. I'm seeing that because, again, the Ace of Clubs can represent legal paperwork and legal documentation. But I usually see this more as like the beginning stages of work or business, or the beginning stages of some kind of social activity, or becoming social. That kind of thing usually represents whatever that it is that we are wanting to put some work and effort into. The potential is there, right? So I'm seeing that with the Crossroads and the Ace of Clubs. So now let's see what's in the middle of the line this week. For me, I always read the middle card as the central issue or something that we're being asked to focus on. And here we have, okay, so here we have the Scythe and the 10 of Diamonds. So the Scythe as the first symbol could represent there may be some choices or decisions that have to be made if I pair the cards, because Crossroads again represents choices or decisions that we may need to make quickly, because Scythe for me is a card that can represent things that are quick, things that are sudden, things that are unexpected. So there may be some unexpected choices, unexpected decisions that need to be made, or that if there is a decision and you're fully aware of what the decision is, what you need to make some choices around, you may need to do them quickly. It's making me feel like with this pairing it could be sooner rather than later, right? And then with the key in front of it, the sentence could literally be, it's important, key, to make a choice or decision, Crossroads, quickly. Scythe. Right, so I will say that. Now, another thing that could be happening here around choices and decisions, going with Crossroads, is that this card can represent things being cut, things being severed, things being removed, right? So it could just be a matter of going through a process of elimination, and as the year comes to an end and the next year starts, it could just be a matter of, what do I need to cut out of my life? And I always ask the question, one way to get an answer to that is to ask yourself, what is no longer serving me and supporting me in my life right now? And would I be willing to cut it out? Right? Now, it's very interesting because I talked about with the key and the 4 of clubs, I'm going with the 4 of clubs specifically. I talked about communication, right? Because I talked about this idea about picking up the phone and making a call, right? And if that's the case, if that resonates with you, then Scythe is a card that could be saying to, like, one of the things that we are wanting to focus on is a sense of disconnection, right? So for some of us, we may be looking about our relationships, because now remember, we had 2 clubs cards, and one of the aspects of clubs as a suit for me can be social stuff, social activity, being social. So maybe within our social circles, or just from a social context, this is about either repairing some damage, because again, this could be disconnection. So we're wanting to repair some damage around a disconnection or a break or some kind of split or separation. And that reminds me, because I also talked about that last week with the 3 of Pentacles, right? I talked about that idea of damage being done and wanting to repair the damage. It's being repeated here. In some cases we have to make the decision on whether or not we want to actively put the work into repairing that sense of separation or disconnection, right? With some people, we may need to kind of cut people out, kind of remove people, kind of eliminate people, that kind of thing, right? And it would just be around this idea of who is enriching our lives, because I'm looking at the harvest on the card. So who is enriching our lives, bringing value to our lives, and that would bring in the diamonds of the 10 of Diamonds, because diamonds is also about value, right? who's enriching our lives, and who is depleting us, who is depreciating in value, that kind of thing. Now that brings me to the 10 of diamonds as the playing card. The 10 of diamonds represents a lot of value. So it could just be focusing on the things in our lives that bring us a lot of value. And that could be people, that could be environments, that could be situations, conditions, circumstances, whatever it is that is bringing a lot of value into your life. That may be the thing where you need to give more focus to. And if it's depleting you, if it's robbing from you, if it's cheating you, then it may be worth your time and effort to think about or to make a decision on removing that, on eliminating that. So that is how I would look at the scythe and the 10 of diamonds. And so now let's take a look at the card going forward. And this is important because the scythe is going to be pointing to this card, so it will be very interesting to see. Okay. So here we have the bouquet. So here we have, if we go with the idea, because I talked about the idea of what's being cut with the blade on the scythe card, it is touching bouquet. So bouquet is what's being cut. So bouquet, for me, can represent a gift. It can represent an invitation. I normally look at this as something of a surprise or a surprising nature or quality. So it could just be a surprise split. If we go with the idea that this is about disconnection, a split or some kind of severance, then it could just be something that comes as a surprise, right? It could also be, too, for me, I'm just saying this just from a physical well-being standpoint. This was the year for me, especially these last few months, that I had my allergies really acted up. And so I'm looking at this because this is my allergy card, going with the idea that flowers equals pollen, pollen equals allergies, those kinds of things. So it could just be a matter of there may be somebody, if you're like me, and your allergies have been in overdrive this last few months, it could be you finding ways to kind of cut that out. Whatever is causing that, you kind of cut that out. So I'm seeing that. So it may not be an actual pollen kind of thing, but if it's getting me to say allergies, it could just be a matter of somebody making some changes around that so you could minimize your reactions, your allergy days, your symptoms, all those kinds of things, right? But I'm going to go more, if we go with the idea that the clubs are talking about being social and social activity and interacting socially, then we may have some sort of change here on that level, and it may be of a surprising nature, right? Going with scythe cutting into bouquet, right? There is that. Now, I will say this too, since I talked about allergies, sometimes the scythe card for me can represent surgery or being cut. So it could just be that somebody, it may be electing to have cosmetic surgery, because bouquet is a card for me that can represent beauty. So it could just represent this idea of maybe somebody's having elective surgery, cosmetic surgery, something of that nature. Something in which they're going to feel a greater sense of beauty on the other side of that procedure. So I'm seeing that. That's just an aside. I usually don't get that, or I usually don't say that, but it came to me in the moment, so I'm going to say it. So there may be somebody who is electing to have some kind of surgical procedure, but it may be more elective or it may be more cosmetic in nature. So there is that. So now if I go with the playing card insert here we have the 10 of hearts. So the 10 of hearts for me is a card that can represent our feeling nature. Hearts is a suit that represents feelings, emotion, and relationships. So now we have another relationship possibility here with that. The 10 is a number for me that represents success. So this could just be about feeling successful, right? Feeling victorious. So there may be some sort of award or reward, maybe for some work or effort, going with the clubs, that we put into a situation, and we get to see some sort of reward for it, and as a result of that, we feel a sense of victory or success. Some other aspects for me with the 10 of hearts is that it can represent an audience. I usually call this the town and city card, so for me it represents the public. So that's just a nice way of getting back to the clubs where I talked about this idea about being social and social activity. We have that here. So there is that to consider. Now I will say this. For someone, there may be something about having the opportunity to go to a concert, because the Ten of Hearts, going with the town and city aspect of it, can represent like going to something that's entertaining. So I'm seeing like an amusement park, concert, some kind of venue where a lot of people gather together, because the Ten of Hearts in that regard can represent an audience. So it could just represent going somewhere where there's going to be a large audience. So the first thing that came to my mind is a concert. So somebody may get a surprise or a gift or an invitation to go to a concert. That's another thing here that I'm seeing with this. Now, if it's not that, and we go with the idea that the Ten of Hearts can represent other people, then that comes back to this idea that I talked about, where we talk about who's enriching our lives, who's bringing not just value, but emotional value, because we have two tens, we have a diamond and a heart. For me, that represents emotional value, emotional reward. Who is bringing emotional value to our lives, right? And who is not, right? That kind of thing. So it's just being repeated. And the 10, we have two tens. The 10 is a number of transition, so it just marks this idea about, you know, something ending and then something beginning, right? So there's all that to consider with the 10 of diamonds and the 10 of hearts. So the last thing I will say here, if we're talking about a split or a separation, for some people, and this may be a little challenging to hear, for some people it may have to do with a marriage or marriage partner, because the 10 of hearts for me can represent marriages and it can represent a marriage partner. So there may be something changing with that kind of situation, right? So I'm seeing that. And that would make sense going with Scythe being the focus, and that could be the split or the separation or the severance that I talked about. And then that would make sense with the Ace of Clubs, where I talked about this idea about legal paperwork and legal documentation, right? So that's just another possibility with the bouquet and the 10 of hearts. So now that's 4 out of the 5 cards. So now let's see how this reading ends up. Let's see what's at the end of the line. Okay. And so here we have tree, and we have the 3 of clubs. So now the first thing that jumped out at me with tree is a card that can represent healing, right? So for some people, if there has been a disconnection, if there has been some sort of split or severance, then we are wanting to heal that. We are wanting to create some healing energy towards that. Now, if I talked about, I should say, Scythe can also represent surgery, then this would make sense, because the tree on the end, and this is positive on the end because the tree represents healing. So this could be surgery for a health-related issue, or that we are healing and recovering from a surgical procedure, right? So that would make sense. And for some people, it may have been something that was sudden or something that was unexpected. But this card would be saying too, like, it was needed to heal from a particular issue or situation, right? So there is that I wanted to point out with tree. Now, tree can also be a pun for family tree, right? So it could just be a matter of if there is a sense of disconnection, severance, split, it may involve extended family. House would be the card for me that would make me think immediate family. So there could be a situation that involves extended family that we are wanting to heal. Now it could also be too, because I talked about this with the beginning of the line. If I go back to key, and I talked about something being discovered or something being revealed, there may be a discovery or revelation around one's family, and this could be extended family. I was about to say external family, but extended family. Somebody may be doing some work or research around one's lineage, ancestry, their family tree, that kind of thing. I'm seeing like somebody actually discovering who they are through ancestry. So it could be somebody's doing some sort of research in their family history, and I'm actually seeing this. You may actually even go so far as to do something with DNA, because I'm seeing that. but it's all designed to help you discover who your extended family is or where you come from, right? For some people that will be very important, because I talked about this idea about embarking on something that's very important. For some people it's very important for them to know who they are and where they come from, right? More so maybe about the idea of who they are or where they come from, so it will give them a better understanding of who they are. Some people really need that because it gives them a greater sense of identity, a greater sense of self. So I'm seeing all that to say somebody may be embarking on that journey, right? And so that would be very important and very significant. So now, I want to talk about the Three of Clubs. So the Three of Clubs, so now if you notice, we had 3 out of the 5 cards come from the Suit of Clubs. So as a ruling majority, this is a week again where we're focusing on work and business. So that could be work and business in the literal sense for some. It could be also about work that we are putting effort into, something we are working on, something we're putting effort into. It could also be about, working in the business of life, right? So we're attending to business at hand, the business of life, like running life, that kind of thing. There's that. Again, the idea about being social activity, social engagement, interactions with other people, but also too, again, this idea about progress being made, right? We have an ace, we have a 3, and we have a 4. So this could just be the beginning stages of moving through a situation, and you get to see some results being made through your effort. Because the 3 is a number of results, right? So starting to see some results. You're at the beginning stages of results. That kind of thing. It could also be for somebody if you understand the idea where I talked about the new job or, doing something new with your career, which has been a repeated or repetitive message these last few weeks, then this could literally mean on-the-job training, right? So there's that. If you're moving into a space where you're working at a company or firm, corporation, something of that nature, this could be you going into that company and getting some on-the-job training. If you are self-employed, you are doing your own thing, because now remember, this could be work and business. If you have your own thing going, this could be the growth and the development of your work and your business, right? So there is that. You're seeing some increase being made with that, right? And the other thing here, again, with the clubs, we have this idea about teaching and learning. So this could just be a matter of you are seeing the results of the lessons learned from experiences that you have moved through, that you have gone through over the past year. You're starting to see some results of that. So that is what I will say with the 3 of Clubs. One last thing I will say. I talked about somebody being a teacher with the 4 of Clubs. Here we have, with the 3 of Clubs, we have an author. This is my author card. So this could be the act of somebody who may be a teacher in some way writing a book, right? And here's the thing. If that resonates with you, then the 4 of Clubs is saying that the reason why you teach people is that your work is meant to help them help themselves, right? And so maybe for you, you're going to reach more people through the act of writing a book, right? Your book will reach more people than you could working with people, maybe one-to-one or however you're doing that now. But this could afford you a greater sense of reach. And there's something about whatever it is that you have been teaching that if you put it into a book form, people will get it, because this card represents practical understanding, right? And it would make you relatable. The only way that people would understand it is if somehow you are able to relate to whatever people are going through, right? So there's something about maybe a particular experience you went through that other people would benefit from, how you got from where you were to where you are now, how you got to the other side of that experience, and other people would benefit from that. So that's what I'm seeing with the 3 of Clubs. And on that note, I will go ahead and end this week's Oracle Outlook. I'm James Himm Mitchell, and as I close, I'd like to thank you for sharing space here with me for the first official reading of 2019. Thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing the same space with you again next week and every week as we move through 2019. So until then, I'm hoping that you have a wonderful day, And I'm hoping that your new year is getting off to a fantastic start. Take care.